Radio.
And we're back to Barrett's Talk right here on dvradio.net. We're sitting here with RIP Medical Debt Organization, and your name is Mikel Burroughs. What exactly is your position with RIP Medical? And just really quick, like 30 seconds of your military history, if you don't mind.
So yeah, I'm the vice president of military and civilian debt acquisition and relief. Retired colonel of 37 years with the active duty, the Guard, the Army Guard, and the Reserves. 9 years enlisted, 28 years commissioned. Just retired in 2012, and had a great opportunity to work with an awesome nonprofit organization that not only is helping civilians get out from underneath healthcare debt, but also our veterans.
And really quick, before we go into the full interview, because I'm going to let DV6 take over from here, what got you interested in doing what you do today? I know you have prior service, you want to help those that's in medical debt, but is there something else that triggered that, hey, I want to go do this for my fellow brothers and sisters?
Well, there's a couple things. Number one, because I'm the chairman of the board for Victory for Veterans Foundation, which is also a nonprofit. One of my board members, Sergeant Michael Thorian, actually had to file bankruptcy, because of healthcare debt, and he doesn't mind me sharing that on the air at all. I mean, he is he's a great warrior. 3 tours in Iraq, and really sacrificed for his country and medical debt. So that was one reason. Another reason is I really think that this financial burden that we have on our veterans out there, I can't prove it. I mean, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a specialist, I'm not an expert, but I think those that are suffering from PTSD and TBIs, having this additional financial burden could cause us to lose veterans in the future. And I lost a father-in-law who died from suicide on 8 December 2015. And when that happened, I went full bore ahead into this nonprofit organization. They invited me, and I want to help veterans, and I want to help civilians as well.
Right. Wow. That's one story for the record books right there. I'm going to let DV6 take it over from here, and we'll get started with the interview. DV6.
Michael, is that Russian?
No. The parents just wanted to be different. They did a good job. I mean,
where were you born?
In Washington, Illinois.
Yeah, it's from Illinois, Danville. Anyhow, all right. Usually there's a sign, but at least you didn't say San Francisco in the 60s.
No, little old Illinois.
Mikel, Well, I just found out about you through Bo, and I did just a quick internet search and watched a couple videos, and I think that's awesome. So let me see if I got this right. So basically, debt is exchanged. You can buy and sell debt like a commodity, and basically what you're doing is buying medical debt for certain individuals and forgiving it in contact.
Yeah, let me kind of back up just a little bit. So just so you know, we are buying it. We're buying it from debt buyers that have already purchased it from healthcare providers. And I've got experience. I've got past experience in that area as well. So these are people that I used to compete against when I was buying healthcare debt to make a profit. And we're going out, we're buying it randomly. Okay, we don't do it on an individual basis. So right now it's just a random act of kindness. We haven't cracked the code yet on being able to do it at the individual level, because the price that we would have to pay would be much greater than what we're paying today. So that's basically how we're doing it. And when we get access to this debt from these debt buyers, we're actually able to go through what we call the Soldiers Civil Relief Act database, and we're able to find people that have served, veterans, people that are currently serving, no matter what service they're in. So that's how we're finding the veteran debt.
That was a question that Google had.
Yeah, it's all random. So it's
so one of the questions was, do these individuals reach out to you? You pick them, you locate them yourselves, right?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. We've had thousands of individuals reach out to us and really tell us some awesome, heartfelt stories. And we respond to them and we say, hey, you know what? We hope that we come across something, in your area for you. But right now, we just can't do it on an individual basis.
So are you the first? This is the first I've heard of anybody doing this. And I know there's tons of nonprofits, charities out there. But are you the first to do something like this?
I don't know for sure, but everybody tells me that works for the nonprofit that we are definitely the first. I've not seen anything else out there like that. And, one of the great things is, we reached out through our attorneys in New York, to get some language around what we're doing. And because it is a random act of kindness and it's considered a gift, there's no 1099 requirements. There's no taxpayer requirements for the people that we're giving this gift to, which even makes it better.
Michael, let me get a better understanding on this, and hopefully some of our listeners will understand too. So take me through the step. What do you, as your charity or nonprofit, what do you do? What's the first step you do when take me from the beginning to the end, like on one typical case?
Okay. All right. Well, people have reached out to us either through our website or through our development team. Both can be connected, through our website. And they said, hey, look, we really love what you're doing. It's been churches, it's been NBC affiliates, TV stations across the nation, and just individual donors. And hey, we love what you're doing, and I would like to do something in this particular state or in this particular city or in these counties. And if it's a TV station or a radio station, this DMA. And then we get that information. That information comes to me. And what I do then is I go out to a secure site, where we've put these portfolios that have been made available based on our qualifications, either 2.5 times above or below the poverty level, 5% more of their gross incomes going for healthcare debt, or they're just insolvent. They're completely underwater. Yeah. And I go through and I search that database for those particular counties, those cities, and I just see what's available. Okay.
And is it a lot of information to sort through? A lot of people in trouble?
Yeah. I mean, because we have access to right now probably close to about $8 billion worth of healthcare debt that we can search through based on what a donor requests. Okay. We do it on a national basis. We can do it on a regional basis, a state basis. And then once I get those figures put together, we send that information back to the donor and say, hey, is this what you were looking for? And if they say yes, then we take their donation. Probably about every other month, I'm going out and I'm making a purchase of anywhere between $30 to $40 million worth of healthcare debt. I put those statistics together and we show then the donor, hey, this is the number of individuals that you're affecting and the face value. And once they say yes, we put together a standard letter. We can identify the donor in the letter if they want it. They can be anonymous. If it's a TV station, we put their logo on right next to our logo on our yellow envelope. Wow. And then we do the mailing. So that I just took you through the whole process.
Yeah, so it works in tandem. So a donor approaches you is usually the first step and gives you the money to be able to do what you guys are good at.
Right.
And he just basically wants to help somebody.
Absolutely. That's
and
it.
As many people as possible. And then you put your expert knowledge in the field to use. Wow. Now I get a better understanding. So what's on your wish list?
Well, my wish list right now, and I'm just being honest, and I hope I don't step on anybody's toes. My wish list is my wish list is that a couple of our debt buyers out there that we're reaching out to. We've got one. I can't mention them by name because of an NDA, but I've got a debt buyer out there that has access to $36 billion worth of healthcare debt that they've bought since they've been in business. And that would give me a lot more leverage to help more veterans, because today, as of today, we've probably abolished close to $65 million for veterans and their families alone.
Mike, can you tell me what as the United States, Huey? Wrong day. What would you say? Do you have an idea of how much debt the U.S. holds in medical debt? The population of the United States is around 365.
Yeah, some figures that we looked at, and again, this is I'm guessing. I mean, I've seen some figures. It's kind of changed. I think it's greater, but we're looking at probably close to $2 trillion worth of bad debt just across the United States right now. $2 trillion. Yeah. Okay. And that's because of the high, co-pays, the out-of-pocket expenses have gone crazy. Okay. Since Obamacare was around, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And, to give you another example, here's a figure that we picked up from Congress when we met in Washington, D.C. with some senators. And it wasn't actually me, it was actually Craig and Jerry, the co-founders. But they're estimating that there's probably close to around $4.5 to $5 billion of veteran health care debt just for emergent care. These are veterans that have had to go to the emergency room. These are veterans that have been stuck in the quagmire of paperwork and haven't gotten their disability benefits. It's just, it's unbelievable. And
they're in never land, and that piles up, and they're waiting on their claim. Yeah,
I mean, I've got a friend right now who sits on my board of directors with another nonprofit that I work for, a veteran nonprofit, and he had to file bankruptcy because his debt got so overwhelming for his family before he received 100% disability through the VA. For his lungs and PTSD, it almost put him into ruin.
Well, I think go ahead.
If you don't mind, Six, I'd like to cut in. You mentioned emergent debt there, Michael, and I have to attest to that. I've had to go through and have emergency care, and the VA's basically like, this isn't an emergency. And the closest VA medical hospital is just around 2.5 hours from me. And I've had to have my appendix taken out, my gallbladder. I mean, I couldn't make it, Is that stuff that you see a lot of these veterans having to deal with, where it's like, that's not an emergency. You could have made it.
Right. No. And I absolutely disagree with that assessment. And if anybody from the VA is listening, or any veterans out there listening to this program, if you have that same type of situation, we're telling you, hey, do not deal with the local VA that's made that assessment. First, go to the 1-800 number, call Washington, D.C., complain, let them know how many hours you're away, how far you had to go, and that is an emergency. I mean, I had to go to the emergency, and thank goodness, I've got TRICARE because I'm a retired colonel, but I use the VA as well because I'm a combat veteran. But I had to go to the emergency room because I was passing 2 kidney stones, and if anybody tells you that isn't an emergency, talk to a woman who's in labor and about ready to have a baby. But I tell you, and if you can't get any satisfaction through Washington, D.C., through the VA, through the main VA there, because each one of these little VAs kind of are like their own little sink domes, contact the Inspector General. The Inspector General oversees everything that the VA does, and file a complaint and try to get your money back, because that is ridiculous. Okay? Not every VA system has emergent care. Not every VA is close. And that's one of the reasons that I'm part of this nonprofit, RIP Medical Debt, is because we're trying to make a difference for our veterans. They should not have to carry this debt when they've carried the country on their back. That's just my personal feeling.
Again, I think the idea of what you're doing is awesome. Unfortunately, one of the things we didn't do at the beginning, and you just reminded me, your prior service. Give us a little background on what you used to do. And
I mean, look, I've got a combination. I started back in 1975 as a private, so I'm kind of dating myself a little bit. But I've spent 37 years in the United States Army, the Army National Guard, and the Reserves. It's a combination. No break in service. 9 years enlisted, 28 years commissioned. I've served in OIF 05, 07, and this is my way of giving back to all of those men and women that have served our country, and this is what I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing before they fold my flag.
Before they fly. I learned a new one. Bo, what else you got there, bud?
Honestly, I just want to give you and everyone at the nonprofit props. It, like you said, it's one thing to sit there and get in debt because you're an idiot, but it's another thing to get in debt because they're basically telling you you don't deserve this this medical care and stuff like that. But I was in shock and awe to see that this nonprofit was doing what you've done, and you've not went mainstream yet. We talked about it before the interview. What you guys are doing is just tremendous.
If you have any advice, like you've explained, like how do you help people, and it's not really, I can't just say, hey, I got debt, can you help me? But for those that are listening that are carrying medical debt, especially veterans, besides calling, is there any other tips you could give them?
Man, I wish there was. I mean, I wish I could give them all kinds of advice. If they're dealing with a lot of debt, because I come from that industry as well, because not only did I spend 37 years in the military, which is a combination of active duty, guard, and reserve, but I spent 42 years in the collection industry. So that's where my experience comes from, buying debt. And the best advice I can give veterans is, number one, don't give up if you're fighting with the VA and they're disapproving payment, okay, for something that, you really had to get an emergency for. Go through those steps that I mentioned earlier, eventually get to your inspector general. Don't give up. A lot of veterans, they just kind of throw in the towel and they give up. Please don't do that. And if you do have a lot of healthcare debt that you're out there managing, even if you're a civilian, call your provider, call the healthcare, the healthcare provider that you're dealing with. Get on the phone. Don't wait. Try to make arrangements up front. See if you qualify for charity, okay? There's a lot of people that are embarrassed and they don't fill out the paperwork for charity care. Go back to the hospital and give them the necessary information that you get, because you might qualify, okay? But work with them, open it up and just say, hey, this is what I can afford and this is what I can't afford, and try to make the best possible arrangement. If it's past that point and it's with a collector or it's with a debt buyer, and they're calling you and everything like that, call them back. Try to work out a settlement. Try to work out a settlement for a lower amount based on your income. Some of those guys will really work with you. A couple of the debt buyers I'm dealing with, when they find people that are really, really indigent or insolvent and stuff like that, hey, they'll even stop calling, man. If you just open up and you're honest with them and you really let them know where you're at, they'll stop calling you, okay? And they'll write the debt off. They'll write it off, and put it on the shelf and never call you again. So those are things, that's the best advice I can give. You asked me earlier what was on my wish list. This is another thing that's on my wish list, especially if you have any healthcare providers that are listening. We're getting ready pretty soon to go out there and go directly to healthcare providers and go to hospitals and go to physician groups and go to ambulance companies and say, hey, let us take a look at your AR. We're not interested in the people that have a high propensity to pay. There are people that need to pay their debt, okay? And it's important to, our society, and it's important to our country, that people are paying. And there's people that qualify for charity. We're not interested in those. We're interested in that group right in the middle that are kind of stuck, okay, that just will never be able to pay. Let us look at that. We'll come to you. We'll provide you with the fair market price, and we'll buy that debt directly from the healthcare providers. So that's where we want to go in the future, because we know there's millions and millions more out there that would qualify.
Oh, if you got a rich uncle or something, he's getting ready to croak, keeping these guys in mind. After the farm, of course.
Now, really quick, Michael, your website is ripmedicaldebt.org. If anybody wants to get in contact with you guys, say an organization or something, where can they contact you? Through the website, Facebook?
Yeah, right. No, if they go through the website, there's a link in there that'll go directly to our development team, and our development team will follow up with them very, very quickly. I mean, these guys are taking calls every day, and it's off the wall. It's great. And we love what people are doing. This has been great for churches, big church organizations that really want to make a difference in their community. Yeah, I mean, that's the best way, through the website. Absolutely.
And just to clarify, individuals can donate as well, correct?
Oh yeah. We get restricted and unrestricted donations every day. Any amounts. I mean, we get $500, we get $1,000. You know, that's what keeps us going. We're very, very small. We're a very, very small operation, but we're doing great things. And the other thing that listeners need to know, that, you know, a dollar of debt buys $100. So for every dollar, we can buy $100 worth of debt. And that's great for people to know that. So our minimum donation for people that want to really run a campaign is usually about $15,000, and $15,000 will abolish $1.5 million in debt. And we make sure that they get every bit of that.
That's great. That's wonderful. Six, you want to take us out, or you want me to? Or
you're the pro. I appreciate you coming on, sir. It's a great organization that you have, and I'm gonna make you a little uncomfortable here.
Okay.
Thank you for your service.
You know what? I used to be uncomfortable with that, but you know what I tell everybody? It was an honor and a privilege to serve our country.
Oh, all right, you got me there. All right. I mean, I agree with you. Wouldn't be DV without putting my foot in my mouth. All right, thanks, Michael. Bo, go ahead, do you think?
Yeah, Michael, thank you. Props on the organization. We look forward to seeing you guys in the news, hopefully very soon. Everybody, that's ripmedicaldebt.org. Thank you, Michael.
All righty. You guys take care. Thank you.
You too.
DV Radio.